Cultivated Marketer, episode 48, Leading with Purpose and Managing Reputation in a Complex World. What if the differentiator in communications and marketing today isn't louder messaging, but a stronger commitment to leadership and reputation? Hear from a guest who has spanned multiple Marcom roles, going from policy comms to news, and now is leading reputation management strategy. All right, so we have our guest this episode is DJ Jordan. What a diverse and varied career, starting in, and also to have that level of interest in both politics and sports, but then to start in sports. And I had so much to unpack from that conversation, but he falsely attributes intelligence to me in the interview when he got out of sports later than I did. But then, Matt, you would know this. I'm not nearly as smart as he thinks I am because I let my son continue in sports. So, yeah. So I didn't tell DJ that. So I'm going to have to confess that to him either in person or in writing when we think him to the show, as I'm not nearly as intelligent as he thinks I am. So,
yeah. Well, Julie, tell us the origin story. How did you get DJ?
How did I get connected to him?
Yep.
So I was working when I was at one nonprofit and I moved to the next nonprofit. On day one of the next nonprofit, the previous nonprofit was exploding with a major crisis communications issue. And I had heard his name enough. And so I'm on the phone with an old coworker because they were without a comms director because I was no longer there. And I said, you need to call DJ Jordan. And they did. They ended up bringing him in and he really helped shepherd the communications function of the organization in the interim after I had left and they hadn't hired a communications director. So he's really good. And that's why I wanted to bring him on. And I loved personally hearing him talk about his background. I knew he'd worked at both CNN and Fox. I know he'd worked, I believe it was the Attorney General's office in Virginia. He'd been on Capitol Hill. But I didn't know that he got, I loved, I won't give it away, but I loved hearing him talk about how he got started. And as a little, I'll say nerdy middle schooler, even though he didn't say this, but when he talks about who he was as a little nerdy middle schooler, how he got interested in communications was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super smart guy. You know what I was impressed with him is that he was kind of, we'll often ask guests to do this, he was talking about his career and all the different things he got to do, et cetera, et cetera. And when we asked him what were those, and I won't give it away, I want the listeners to hear, but what were those hallmark moments for you, those turning points? And he talked about when he made the mental jump to transitioning from basic skills and just kind of doing the day-to-day into being more thinking of himself as a strategist, and how that's really when he felt like his career took off. Because, you know, we've all been in front of students, guys, and how many times do we tell them, you better develop your strategy skills, you better understand how to do more than just offer people tactics. And it was just interesting to hear him talk about how that became a real true turning point, because this is a guy who's incredibly successful. I mean, how many of our students would like to have his career trajectory? Mm-hmm. And yet that's what he pointed to as being kind of that hallmark moment. I just thought that was cool.
He touched on that a couple different times in a couple different ways too, because he talked about his relationship with the C-suite. And when people think about that in a marketing or communications role, they think about it from the standpoint of the CEO or the CMO or the CCO. But when we started talking about the CFO, and a lot of the conversations I'll have with individuals about strategy, and I like to keep things super simple, is that it either comes to money. It's still all about money. If you're in the for-profit, even to some extent, the nonprofit, it's about money. And we're either growing or it's either top line or bottom line. And so the whole notion of him even talking about the relationship with the CFO and thinking about that strategically was really stuck out to me as something we haven't heard so much in our other conversations.
Yes, that was so good. So good.
Anything else you guys would like to mention from that conversation? Or we just turn the other thing that was fun in this, and I'm so glad, Julie, you had made the recommendation, was for us to do something. And he led right into that too when we were talking.
He was great.
He led right into that. It was perfect guinea pig for this. But we do have a new segment, folks, and DJ brought it on the new segment we got at the end. New segment with 4 quick questions on our guest, and had a little fun with DJ as our guinea pig. So we want to thank him for that. But if there's nothing else, I think we'll just turn you loose in our conversation that had a little swag to it too. And I think we may drop a little beat as we go into this. Our conversation with DJ Jordan. Welcome to Cultivated Marketer, where we talk marketing professional development so your garden of opportunity grows. This is Brent Bowen.
I'm Matt Tidwell.
And I'm Julie Masson.
And our guest today is the Senior Vice President at Pinkston, a strategic communications firm known for helping organizations navigate reputation, crises, and complex stakeholder environments. He brings deep expertise across corporate communications, brand strategy, and reputation management, with a focus on helping organizations lead with purpose and communicate with clarity in high-stakes moments. Throughout his career, he has advised leaders and organizations on how to align internal culture with external messaging, ensuring that what a brand says matches how it shows up. He is also a strong advocate for inclusive leadership and intentional communication, helping organizations build trust across diverse audiences and evolving cultural expectations. DJ Jordan, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. I'm excited.
Well, hey, DJ. Hey, friends, I like to say when I see you. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick us off. So you have such an amazing career. Like I personally have fangirled a little bit about all the things that you have done. I know we were talking about this before the show, but I was in rooms where people kept talking about your name. Oh, we should ask DJ if he can help with that. And DJ would be good at this. So let's go back to the beginning. What originally drew you to communications and marketing? And what are some of those early experiences that shaped how you're thinking today in 2026?
That's a great question. I actually started really loving news media, TV and radio, specifically in high school. I was just really enamored by how storytelling and covering the news, what type of a career that could be. And so even in going back to probably middle school, even, I was a big, huge, just TV junkie when it came to news. Also sports. I was interested in sports communications and political communications. And my first love was actually wanting to be a sportscaster, believe it or not. So that kind of whet my appetite. And when I went to undergrad, I played college football. And one of the things I was interested in was broadcast television for football. And so I got to do not only play, but do some experimentation with our college campus radio station and doing some production there. And so throughout my college time, I had an interest in both sports communication and political communication. And then after school came up to DC, and kind of the rest is history. I actually started doing some work on the sports side, a network called Comcast Sportsnet, which is now NBC Sports, I believe, or Monumental Sports Network. And that was really fun. But I started a family as well, and I needed to take care of my family. Sports TV and sports broadcasting, they don't pay jack squat. Sports journalism, oh my
Maybe
gosh.
not a great.
Me and my new wife and everything, we were all starving. So I was like, let me give political TV and broadcast news a try. And then that's when I went to CNN.
I started in broadcast journalism for sports too, as well, DJ. And I remember sitting in broadcast class being told by an anchor that I'd make $13,000 working in Chinook, Kansas. And I left my classroom and went immediately up to my advisor.
Oh, you were so smart.
And said, we need to switch majors. This isn't going to happen. Investor comms. Let's talk investor comms. I can make way more money.
Brent, I wish I was as smart as you were. I was so freaking idealistic and naive. And I'm like, oh, I don't need to make money. It's all about what you love. And then eventually the money will come. And then I started a family and realized that I could not support myself or my family on my first salary was $22,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got to do cool stuff. I got to interview Michael Jordan when he was playing with the Washington Wizards, one of his last couple of years. I got to cover the Baltimore Ravens and my favorite football team, the Washington Commanders, then the Redskins. I got to do some really cool stuff, but couldn't take care of my family. So Yeah,
What I hear you saying is that nonprofit communications marketing and sports communications are very similar. You might not get paid a lot, but you're going to do some cool things and learn a lot of things that will help you in your career.
exactly. Nonprofit and charities, it's all about making an impact and making sure the world is a better place. That's the true payment that you enjoy.
Always, always, for sure. Hey, DJ, great to have you on the show. And you and I don't know each other, so this is always a treat for me when I get to meet new stellar marketing communicators like yourself. But and I was just in the process of going through your LinkedIn bio and that type of thing. It's just amazing, kind of the range of roles and environments and diversity within your professional experience. So let's take a trip back through memory lane a little bit on that. What were some of those key defining moments or decisions that help stage or kind of help shape your path into the leadership role you're in now? Can you point back to one or two of those, either fork in the road moments or epiphany moments, or help us understand that?
Yeah, I'll go back to a couple of forks in the road of my career. The first one I would say is working at CNN. Was here in the Washington D.C. bureau, and we really covered, the federal government, politics, and global affairs and foreign policy events. And I just fell in love with kind of political media and covering everything that was going on in Washington D.C. There's never a dull moment here. There's always so much activity. And so I worked for a show called The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, which is still on. And working with him was amazing. He's incredible. He is a machine. And then I also worked on a show that you guys may not be old enough, but it's called Larry King Live. I actually worked on that show for a while, and that was a great experience.
Are you kidding? As podcasters, Larry King Live? That's like
DJ is speaking to the younger audience
talking
out
about
there.
Julie.
He knows it's not us, I think, but he's just making us feel good.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I also got to do some field producing on Capitol Hill and got to cover Capitol Hill, congressional hearings, press conferences, and things like that. And that's actually what piqued my interest about the possibility of working in Capitol Hill and in Congress. And a few years later, after a few opportunities and things, I actually went to Capitol Hill and worked as a communications director for a couple of members of Congress. And I also worked for a committee in the House. I worked for the House Small Business Committee at the time. And that was really interesting because the topic and policy subject matter was something that impacted almost everyone. I mean, small businesses really impact everyone, but I got to work with a large number of members of Congress and got a front row seat in how policy is made and debated on Washington, D.C. So that was great and really actually helps me today and how I know how to navigate the federal government and Congress. And then I would say my first year at Pinkston, the transition from Capitol Hill to Pinkston to the PR world was a massive transition for me. And most people who do that go from journalism to kind of Capitol Hill and politics, fast-paced environment, to the PR world. There's quite a bit of an adjustment. But I remember being at this job probably about 4 to 5 months in when it really clicked. The light bulb went out off of me because I was so used to a different pace of creating news and trying to get attention of reporters and things like that. And then to really transitioning to being a really smart strategist, coming together and developing a creative way to get positive earned media coverage and also to message things and present things as a marketer in a way that benefited my clients and never look back.
That's interesting. Just as a quick follow-up on that, because in teaching, which I do now, young marketing communicators, we always stress the importance of having them think like a strategist, right? The critical thinking piece. It's more than just about the tools. But I sort of caught that was a real kind of, again, hallmark moment for you when you were able to really sort of raise your hand aggressively to say, hey, I feel like I'm a strategist now. And it seems like that maybe is when your career sort of took off. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but that's sort of what I got there.
Oh, you're exactly right. Because you look at the objectives of your client, whoever you're working with, whether it's a business objective, growth, new products, whatever, you look at that objective and you utilize marketing, communications, PR in order to help them reach that goal. And you can be as creative as you want to be. Some people think that there's only certain ways to tell a story. No, there's so many different types of ways to tell a story. And using earned media is even more challenging because you've got to create something that is newsworthy. And that's becoming more and more challenging, but I actually enjoy the challenge. And, being able to tell your client, I know that what you're talking about, you think everybody in the world's going to love and want to know about, but I'm telling you, it's not newsworthy. Let's shift. How about we look at this product, or we look at this rollout, or we do some research or whatever to try to make it newsworthy to get attention. Or on the marketing side, the way that you're talking about your product is boring. You're not going to sell anything. Sorry. Let's pivot and come up with a different strategy.
You've had such a diverse career and background. I mean, just going that from even starting at the university experience and working in radio, then working in a production environment for news, to now looking at earned media. And you just kind of outlined the notion of strategy to also where your reporter background helped. But based on all that variety, is there one aspect of the Marcom experience that you've seemed to kind of enjoy more than another as you've gone through your career journey?
Man, I've enjoyed every part of it so much. And believe it or not, I think I still enjoyed journalism and news media. I just consume so much of it. And I enjoy how stories are told and reported on and things like that. But just to go back to the strategy piece, that's what I enjoy by far the most. And thankfully, in my role now, I get to engage not only in-house Marcom's leaders, but I'm engaging C-suite executives. And Julie and I have talked about this before. There becomes a moment in a career person of a Marcom's where they see themselves not just as like you're taking an assignment and you are executing, but you are actually to the point creating a strategy that will inform an execution. And at that level, when you're able to interface with CEOs and presidents and executive directors, and even, other parts of the C-suite too, even the finance people, convincing them of the strategy is a great challenge, but sometimes you need to do that in order to be successful. You need to sell your campaign, your initiative, your strategy with everybody who are decision makers in order to be successful. And I really enjoyed that. I get to do a lot of that with both corporate and also nonprofit. In the nonprofit world, sometimes you got to convince the board as well as the executives. In the corporate world, you definitely got to convince the CEO, but you got to convince the people who are writing the checks too.
Mm-hmm. Very true, because you're often asking for money for that execution of that said strategy.
That's right.
the CFO is going to have tight strings on that purse.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so DJ, you have this very cool title. For those who are climbing their career ladders, you finally got the coveted senior vice president at Pinkston, which is really cool. But you right now, it seems like in your career, you're really working at the intersection of communications and reputation, which I love that word. I think it's something that a lot of people, like, they don't think about that as like not a tactic, but they don't think it is like a category they got to think through when they're thinking through the strategy. So talk to us about what that looks like today, that intersection of communications, reputation. What does that look like for your work today as you're working with different clients, and where are you spending most of your strategic focus now?
Oh, that's a great point. So reputation is part of a brand, a very important part of the brand. And it's something that's very, very difficult to try to repair. So it's important to actually be proactive in shaping a reputation. And you do that in so many different ways, through marketing, through PR, through effective crisis management, through planning for risks. Planning ahead of time for a crisis is the best time to actually strategize a solution to the crisis, not when you're in the middle of it, but actually doing that on the front end. And so a lot of my time is spent on kind of three things. Number one, strategy development of a Marcom strategy, marketing or PR. So that strategy right there. Another part of my job, just as a senior leader at my company, is kind of what you do, Matt. And that's a little bit of teaching and imparting upon people, my entire team, what that needs to look like, both in the strategy and in the execution. And then on the last part is really making sure that everybody is on board with what that strategy is. And sometimes that is teaching the client or teaching the other C-suite executives on what we need to do in order to protect the reputation. And so those three things are really a lot of what I spend time on.
I've got a follow-up question that This happens, I think, almost every episode. I apologize every time. Okay, so I would love to know, do you have a lot of, do you see this often with companies and organizations where they're proactively coming to you and saying, hey, help us plan for crises, help us plan in advance? This is something, when I did my master's at KU, Matt taught the crisis communications class, and it was my favorite class of the entire program. I never, ever want to do crisis communications. I like studying it. I like practicing it in a classroom setting, but the actual execution of it, we need people like you or Amy Whitfield, who was a guest. So talk to us about, where are you, like, do you have companies and organizations saying, all right, guys, help us plan? Or are you finding that a lot of people are not planning for crises in advance, and then they're having to repair their reputation on the fly?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of companies don't naturally want to plan ahead for a crisis, especially those that don't experience that much of they aren't in more of a riskier area. But a lot of the clients are coming to us oftentimes because we're in Washington, D.C. We know public policy, we know political advocacy. And so most of the time, they're going to be a little bit more understanding of risk because of cultural issues and political issues. I mean, those are the things that you normally don't want to talk about at a dinner party, right? Religion, politics, race, things like that, where a lot of the clients that we work with, they're already going to have a little bit more propensity or sensitivities to those type of risks. And so I would say probably, 75% know that they need to plan ahead for it. Only about, unfortunately, 25 to 50% actually devote the resources to actually do it, because that means you gotta pay us to work with you to put together a robust crisis communications plan. And this isn't just a week exercise. Oftentimes, this may take 30 to 60 days to really do the job, that is really required. And that can look like a deep dive of your company and analysis of what risks lay ahead. Also, you need to look at past crises as well to be able to predict if that could come back again. You never know, especially with legal matters. Things like that could come up in the future. And then it also takes spending a lot of time on kind of wargaming out what the messaging will need to be and the actions that will need to be to respond to the crisis. And that could be a really tedious exercise, but it is so worth it. It is so worth it. The money is worth it. And I would just tell all the Marcoms professionals that are listening to us today, if you've been trying to convince your bosses to do a crisis management exercise, just bring the financial case to them.
That's good. Yeah.
A crisis at a particular company could cost 5 to 10% of a stock price, and bring them specific examples of where this has happened, even within their industry. So if you're corporate, even if you're private, you're talking about real dollars that are impacted by a crisis management issue, whether it is a natural disaster, whether it is a failure of leadership, whether it is an abuse issue. There's so many types. Whether there's a protest due to a political issue. There's just, in this day and age, everybody has a microphone. Everybody has their own TV with social media now. And so these protests look a whole lot different nowadays. And so you want to be ready for all of that. And you want to plan for every type of risk. On average, whenever we're doing a crisis management plan for someone, we are probably identifying anywhere from 10 to as many as 30 different types of crises or risks that could happen. And then you are also working on, let's go ahead and develop some messaging now. Let's go ahead and develop a plan of execution now. If this happens, then this. And I tell you, it'll help everyone sleep better at night, knowing that you have that. And, the best crisis management is the type that kills a story before it ever becomes public. Sometimes you only do that by reacting quickly. It's speed. If you are able to, jump on an issue before it's ever publicized, you're able to talk to a reporter from the local TV station and educate them on why this is not a crisis, and you prevent them from doing that story, you've just won the day. You've prevented so much other issues from occurring.
Wow, boy, I could. Let me first of all just say I can't say a louder amen to everything you just covered, PJ, because I just finished teaching my crisis communications class, and it's just like you took my syllabus and you did
You
a very
listed it.
quick little 60-second synopsis.
DJ, you just earned yourself a guest lecture request.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. As somebody that's taught for Matt before, I'm seeing this right now. I'm seeing the email get
Let's
written
go.
right
Let's
now.
do it.
The email writes
I'm
itself.
ashamed. Kansas is one of the few states I've never been to. I can't believe it.
Oh, come on.
Place. But anyway, this is kind of my question's kind of related in a bit because we're living in a moment where we're going to talk about the T word, right? The trust word, which is all of our stock and trade as communicators. But we're living in this moment where trust is probably more fragile than ever before. And, you can talk about the reasons for that, the deep polarization that we have in this country, which is just probably deeper than any of us can ever remember, the sources of trust and how that's been eroded over time to kind of the traditional sources of trust that certainly when I broke into the business, we could kind of count on now, people are turning away from. And so attention is fragmented. AI has stepped in. So now everybody's skeptical about what's coming across their feeds. I mean, when's the last time any of us looked at our feeds and thought, oh, well, this is legitimate, right? And so we're just living in this time where trust is it just seems like the pillars are just crumbling in front of us. How do you counsel companies at a time like that? I mean, should they be more guarded? Should they not take stands? Should they double down maybe on their crisis communications? It just seems like it's for somebody who counsels businesses in this time when, nobody feels like they can trust anybody would be extremely difficult. So how do you react to that?
Man, I have so many reactions to that. You're exactly right. We're in quite an age right now where social media and AI and things are really impacting the level of trust. But you'll actually see a lot of institutions right now are struggling with trust, and whether that's, academic, whether it's philanthropy, whether it's corporate, politicians, so on and so on, that it's a major issue. And so my advice and our advice at Pinkston is, number one, that means that you really got to actually double down on your branding and your reputation management. You actually will need to devote even more resources to that in this day and age. You got to be smart. You got to be really, really smart in doing that. And there's actually a couple of there's pros and cons to where we are in society. Some of the pros are, number one, you can create content with less resources than you could 10 years ago because of AI and because of the prevalence of social media. You can take your messaging and your products and your comms directly to people in a less expensive way than years before. Number two, and this, believe it or not, can be a strength, is that our society attention span is crazy, crazy short. And you may be thinking to yourself, that's a negative. How can that possibly be a positive? It's also a positive because they will forget whatever they were mad at you about 2 months ago. They're on to the next rage issue.
This does not work with my kids though. They don't forget.
Yeah, I can understand. My boys actually forget quickly, but the girls do not. They hold a grudge. But yeah, you're right. So, because there's so many waves of news cycles and trending topics on social media, people actually do move on faster. And so that's actually a very important principle to remember in the middle of a crisis management issue, because if you're in it, oftentimes you think your world is coming to an end. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And you either react dramatically or sometimes you do nothing at all. You can be paralyzed. But just think of the fact that you want to turn this news cycle, this crisis management, from 2 months to 2 days. And that might mean acting quickly to get all of the content and information that you need to get out quickly. If it's an issue, face it head on. People will respect you more for that if you own up to it. And guess what? 3 news cycles later, people have moved on and people are forgetting faster than ever before. They may remember, oh, there is that one thing that particular company dealt with, but I remember they took responsibility for it, and in the end, that's a respectable thing in today's age. But yeah, I just encourage more and more companies to lean in and also to devote resources and time and energy to learning all of these different trends and tools that are out there. The innovation is going fast, and that's a good thing, but you got to learn it. You got to actually stick with it. And old dudes like me sometimes are upset that we have to learn all these new trends. I was like, dang, I just learned, Claude 3.2. Now I got to learn this or whatever, but it's worth it. You got to stay in the game. You got to devote time. You got to go to the conferences. You got to go to, if you're on the PR side, and especially on crisis management, continue to engage reporters, continue to engage news media, because you're continuing to learn what they're dealing with and what the newsroom is. You think it's hard what you're doing today? It's 10 times harder for reporters to cover the news in a way that they want to versus what we have to do. Their news cycles are faster. Their editors are more demanding than ever before. And our job in PR is really to help them to do their job in a way that's going to eventually benefit you. So devoting the time and the resources on leaning in on all of that is so important. If you're a PR person listening right now, a marketing comms person, yes, let your staff go do those coffees, those dinners, those happy hours, whatever, to continue to engage reporters, because it's going to benefit your organization overall.
Yeah, I love that message about emphasizing engagement, even in this environment, right, where it might seem counterintuitive in a way, but to just bury your head in the sand would be tough. Hey, just a quick follow-up, because I love to ask this of our guests we have on that are in agencies, and part of my role as a faculty member, it's almost a given. But what are you seeing for the young folks that you're hiring in your agency these days? What impresses you about the Gen Z crowd, maybe, that are coming into your shop for the first time? Maybe there's an area that you think they could be a little bit better at. Skill, it could be hard skills, could be soft skills that they could be different at. What are you observing from our young folks?
Man, that's a really, really great question. I'm observing a couple of things. There's a little bit of a surprise. Surprisingly, I'm seeing some anxiety about the industry overall, and they are tiptoeing into it. Whether they're trying to navigate, how do I navigate with AI? How do I present to this client? I'm not sure if I'm quite ready to present, things like that. And I'm seeing some of that. And I'm seeing, I'll just start with the negatives, also a lot of distracted young people. And I understand, Gen Z, you're navigating a lot of stuff right now, whether it's affordability of getting a house and an apartment, while trying to navigate the beginning of your career, which you're getting news every day that organizations are laying people off because of AI. I get that. That's a challenge. And so it's creating a little bit of hesitancy in some of the young people that we have as interns and new hires. However, with that said, a couple of positives that I'm seeing is that they're coming in wanting to play with tools in a different way than some of our older staff here, and they say I'd like to learn that, and they're coming back half a day later able to teach us, the rest of us, on this latest
half
tool.
a day later. Wow.
Interesting.
and I am here for that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. When our 25-year-old account executive is going to train me and our partners on some new technology. So that's a big thing. And I will tell you, the young people who are coming out that are self-starters are going to exceed. They are going to just absolutely crush it. If they are able to come to you with ideas or with suggestions, they set themselves apart. And so if there's any students listening to this right now, that's one of the biggest skill sets that you can impress employers. Do your internship, and instead of saying, I did these 2 projects today, this is cool, I'm done in an hour, I'm going to chill or read or whatever. That's not the right mindset. You want to be thinking about what else can you do? You want to be thinking 2 steps ahead of your boss, saying, I know that our client, we're doing this presentation 3 days from now, but I was thinking if we added a slide about X, Y, and Z, that'd be really great. Should I go ahead and jump in and start on something like that? I can start ideating. You stand out so well just from that. And so you don't have to know everything, but having the right attitude and being a self-starter will really, really, really help you in the start of your career.
Yeah, very well said.
And I'm sure you're teaching your kids that, Matt.
We try. The struggle is real.
A moment ago, DJ, you were talking about leaning into the notion of and short attention span. So we as well in this show are going to be leaning into short attention span, and you're going to be the guinea pig for a new segment that we have, which is 4 quick questions, which are intended to be for the short attention span crowd. So we're going to ask you, we're going to alternate here, and each of us will ask you at least one quick question and anticipate you've been beautiful in you can see the PR experience and the great crafted 3-minute response through the course of our conversation here. I love it. But these can even be more succinct. So I'm going to lead off and ask you, because I still have LinkedIn envy. You're of other people. Your favorite follow on LinkedIn right now is who?
Oh, Julie, by far. Mom.
Mine too.
What a coincidence. You know what? She's a host, so I can't, brown nose too hard. Actually,
she's there for it though, DJ. She really is.
I like Axios. Axios is a news media outlet, and they release a lot of research and good original content.
Beautiful.
TJ, what's one overused buzzword you would ban immediately?
Oh my gosh. The word right and using it too much. You've heard people who present and like they will use the word right 3 times in a sentence in a presentation. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
that has replaced, with a lot of people who love to hear themselves talk. Well,
most of those folks are from Philadelphia, I think.
My least favorite city, by the way. Yeah.
Ooh, throwing some shade. Okay, what is your go-to emoji? If you're texting me, you're not an emoji user. I am, but if you are using an emoji, what's your go-to emoji?
Oh man, that's a good one. The thinking emoji for sure. Because
which one's the thinking one? Is it like green to the head?
Yeah.
Oh, like this, where they're like holding the chin.
Intensively.
Yeah, because, I'm old now. So like half of the stuff that's texted to me, I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just like, so I got 4 kids. Yeah, I got 4 kids too, including a 14-year-old who talks in Gen Z slang. So I'm like,
oh yes.
If she says I'm cooked or am I right or chopped or all of those things, I'm like, huh? What?
So when you send the thinking emoji, you're basically expressing I'm confused. When I see it, I almost feel judged where someone's like, really? That's what you said? So that's helpful to know.
That's the problem with emojis.
Yeah.
DJ, what's your walkout retirement song?
Oh, Lil Wayne, a song from 2009, Go DJ. And if you don't know what I'm talking, you don't know, that's fine. But the song is like, go DJ, that's my DJ, go DJ, that's my DJ. In pre-production, you can add it to this podcast if you want to. But yeah, Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne, go DJ. This episode will have a little swag to it. There you go. Awesome. I loved having you as the guinea pig for this. Thank you so much. It's awesome.
Oh, you're welcome. That was fun.
Yeah, you've been so great and gracious with your time. Is there anything else you'd like to mention that we may have missed?
No, I was just encourage, your listeners, especially those Marcom professionals that are out there, is, some people can be discouraged in this economy right now. And I would just encourage you, not to be discouraged. This is a new frontier. There's a lot of change happening, and there will be a lot of change over the next 24 months. Embrace it, lean in with confidence. That's what I would encourage you to do.
Love that.
Awesome message of hope and a little confidence there, DJ. It's been a tremendous time that we've had with you. Really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Thanks.
If you found value in today's episode, check us out on our website, cultivatedmarketer.com. You'll also be able to subscribe to us, rate us, and leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Remember, a garden of opportunity grows with Cultivated Marketer.